Ender, the Scandinavian Enderman here. In this video, I'll be collecting materials and working on my new house in Minecraft while I read Scary Reddit stories from r/nosleep. First story, I played Never Have I Ever with my friends, but it turned into the worst night of my life by Sam Haysom. Never have I ever had a threesome. Jack had his glass raised before it even finished a sentence. He took a long, noisy gulp of the beer, making sure both me and Jenny were watching. I didn't drink, just glanced over at Jenny and rolled my eyes. She shook her head in response. Jack, you haven't had a threesome. I fucking have. No, you haven't. There isn't even one girl on campus stupid enough to sleep with you, let alone two. Jack put his pint down and grinned. Oh, don't be jealous, Jenny. I'm sure you'll find someone soon. I can't be jealous of something that never happened, can I? Ask those two freshers if it ever happened, if you're so sure. Oh, yeah? And where would I find them exactly? Just look for the two most satisfied girls on campus. Jack picked up his pint and winked. They'll be more than happy to confirm the story. I snorted, couldn't help myself. Jack might have been a prick, but he always made me laugh. He made Jenny laugh too, even if she didn't always like to show it. The three of us have been in a flat together in our first year of university, and in December we'd already signed up to share a house for the second year. We'd made the decision fast, giddy with the honeymoon stage of our new relationship. But now I wonder if we'd been a bit too quick. We still got on well and laughed together, but I know that Jack and Jenny started to grate on each other. And the grating ended up grating me too. Don't know what that word means, but okay, so I looked it up and it's just irritating. Okay, back to the story. Looking at the frown on Jenny's face after Jack's last comment, I decided to intervene, calm things down before the night took a turn for the worse. Hang on a minute, mate. You don't drink on your own turn, can you? Surely that defeats the point of saying never have I ever. Jack looked back with wide, innocent eyes. Sure you can, I checked the rules. You checked the rules? Yeah, I googled them before we came out. There's no way you googled the rules of never have I ever before we... He's right, you know. The voice cut me off mid-flow. All three of us looked around at the same time. The girl standing next to our table wasn't anyone I recognized. She was short and blonde, with bright green eyes and a half smile on her face. I'd never seen her around before. Judging by the looks of confusion on Jack's and Jenny's faces, they didn't recognize her either. The three of us shared a quick, confused glance while the girl stood there. It was Jack who recovered first. You see, guys? I told you. I looked him up. He turned back to the blonde girl. Sorry, I don't think we met before. I'm Jack. That's Max over there, and the ray of sunshine opposite of me is Jenny. Jenny scowled. Are you? Jack glanced around the crowded bar, searching for the right words. Are you with anyone, or... No, I'm waiting. Later, I'll think back to that sentence, the oddness of it. Not I'm waiting for my housemates or I'm waiting for friends. Just I'm waiting. But at the time, the thought didn't even cross my mind. I just assumed the girl was waiting for people she knew to arrive, and had overheard our conversation while passing by our table. I guess all of us assumed that. Well, feel free to wait with us and play a few rounds if you want, Jack was saying now. Those two keep ganging up on me, and I could use someone on my side. What did you say your name? Okay, thanks. I'll stick around for a while. The girl smiled at Jack. She brushed a lock of blonde hair from her forehead as she took the seat opposite of me. I saw Jack's grin widen. I snuck a glance at Jenny and saw her sitting back in her seat, arms folded, face unreadable. Well, we're going round clockwise, and I just had my turn, said Jack, so I guess that means it's your go. The blonde girl flickered her eyes from Jack to me. I felt a small shiver in my stomach. Her eyes were large and pixie-ish, an unusual shade of green. The poetry book I read for my English lit course would have had a lot to say about those eyes. I glanced down at my pint, suddenly a bit of embarrassment, hoping my face wasn't turning red. I was still staring at the table when the girl spoke up. Never have I ever woken up in an empty house. I looked back up, my embarrassment gone as quick as it had come. Never have I ever woken up in an empty house. What was that about? Never have I ever might not be the best drinking game at uni. But I'd yet to meet a student who haven't played it before. Everyone had. It was a kind of time-killing game you played when you didn't have a pack of cards, or when someone was too drunk to bother with them. And because we'd all played it, we all knew the unwritten rules. The stuff you said was always sexual. It was always something sex related. The idea was to make a statement like Jack's one about having a threesome, then wait and see who drank. The people who drank were the ones who done it. I cast my mind back, trying to think of a time I'd played when it hadn't been like that, and I couldn't. Jack and Jenny's silence told me they couldn't either. I glanced quickly at both of them. Jenny's previously blank face now wore a slight frown, half confusion, half exasperation. Jack just looked like a man whose bubble had burst. Jack just looked like a man whose bubble had burst. But being Jack, he was also the quickest to recover. He spun his glass slowly on the table and grinned across at Jenny, who'd just taken a sip from hers. "Don't try to tell me you're drinking, Jenny," he said. "You never even woken up in an empty bed, let alone a house. Fuck off, Jack." I took a gulp of my own drink, trying to pretend I hadn't heard the edge of that had crept into Jenny's voice. Jack did the same. As I put my pint down, I stole another glance at the girl sitting opposite of me. Her face was impossible to read. She had a drink in front of her that I hadn't noticed before. What looked like a gin and tonic, and she was prodding at the glass with her finger. If she had any idea she'd said something the rest of us found odd, she didn't show it. The game continued. After a bit of coaxing, Jenny eventually had her turn. And then a few minutes later, I had mine. Jack went to get another round of drinks, then came back and took his. And then it was the blonde girl's turn again. I won't describe every single turn everyone took. If I'm honest, I can't remember them all. And that was the point where the night began to slide away from me. To take the subtle turn that was so many of our nights out did, drifting from pleasantly tipsy to suddenly far too drunk. I remember Jack saying something about showers, sex. That made everyone laugh. I remember downing a pint while the others chanted around me, banging the table in unison. I remember locking eyes with the blonde girl, catching her half smirk as she brushed her hair from her face. And I remember some things she said. Some of her newer have-I-evers. While everyone else continued with the usual kind of shit, the blonde girl carried on saying weird stuff, kind of creepy stuff. Sometimes it produced an awkward laughter, sometimes an awkward silence. Sometimes Jack would make an innuendo. A couple of times Jenny rolled her eyes in a really obvious way, and once she pretty much burst out laughing as soon as the girl was done talking. But I never did. The girl's face remained blank whenever she spoke, and she never gave any hint that she realized she was doing something odd. I began to feel a little bad for her, but there was no denying the strangeness of the stuff she came up with. As well as I can remember her a few of her never have I evers. Never have I ever woken up from a nightmare I couldn't remember. Never have I been completely terrified without knowing why. Never have I ever refused to look in the bathroom mirror in case someone was standing behind me. Never have I ever forgotten the worst thing that happened to me. Never have I ever seen a shadow from the corner of my eye. By the time she came out with the last one, I was pretty far gone. I lost count of how long the game has been going on for, and how much I drank. My head was spinning, my mouth felt dry, the taste of tequila I couldn't remember drinking on my tongue. I looked down and saw cluttered shot glasses on the table in front of me, limes and spilled salt, at least 6 empty pints. I went to stand up when my hip bashed into the edge of the table, causing the glasses to rattle. "Hold up, Max is tapping out." Jack's words slurred into each other. He grinned up at me, draining his pint. "Get us another round, mate." I edged past the back of his chair, saw Jenny sitting opposite of Jack, her arms folded. Isn't it her turn to get a round in? Jenny's eyes wide and bloodshot from booze. She stared at Jack, unblinking. The anger in her face was obvious. She said Jack, leaning over and gripping the hand of the blonde girl. "Each drinking on me." That's a weird word. Before I was clear of the table, I made eye contact with the blonde girl one last time. Her green eyes fixed on me. She held my gaze a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she winked. As I stumbled away from the table into the crowded bar, I remember thinking, it was strange that she still had only that one gin and tonic in front of her. Voices, music, packed, jumbled bodies. The rest of the night is a jigsaw puzzle with the pieces missing. When I think back to it now, I'm not sure what the real and what wasn't. Which memories are true and which is false. Conjured up by my own head to fill in the blanks. I have a memory of squeezing my way across the bar's dance floor. The room spinning around me. Too many faces, too much light. Pounding bass music filling my head. I remember aiming for the bar but ending up at the toilet. Crouched on all fours in a cubicle as I threw up burning tequila. My jeans damp from piss. Okay. Where I kneed on the wet tiles. Time passed, I don't know how much. The next memories I have is from the dance floor. I was somewhere in the middle, clutching a slopping pint that kept spilling over my hands, dancing with random groups of people. Some of them cheered when they saw me, others turned away in disgust. I kept looking for familiar faces, for any sign of Jack and Jenny, but I couldn't see them. More time passed. The last clear memory I have from that night is of the argument. Arguing with a group of strangers, I was swaying next to a table at the back of the bar, next to our table, and I was telling people sat there that they were in my seats. They were all in our seats, that me and my friends had been sitting there. The strangers looked confused and annoyed, finally angry. One of the guys got in my face and told me to fuck off. I mumbled something I can't remember and turned away. For a split second, so fleeting, I can't be sure if it's real. I thought I saw Jenny. I thought I saw the back of her head. The crowd parted and I glimpsed her on the far side of the bar, heading towards the exit. Then the crowd shifted and something blocked my view, and I lost sight of her. I woke up in the darkness of my bedroom, lurched out of sleep like a drowning man, desperate for air. I've been dreaming. A dream in which I've been dancing with Jack and Jenny at the bar, screaming along with the lyrics of some song. And now I feel disoriented, unsure what was real and what wasn't. I also felt awful. My brain felt like it was swollen in my skull. My head pounded. I couldn't taste alcohol and bile. I could taste alcohol and bile in my mouth. My tongue was dry, I couldn't swallow, and my stomach was empty, save for acid. I reached over to the bedside table, feeling for a glass of water, and found my phone instead. 3 a.m. The house was silent around me. I couldn't hear anyone downstairs. I couldn't remember how I got home. Right then, I didn't care. Right then, the only thing I wanted was for the pain in my head to go away. I slowly pushed myself up from the bed and swung my legs over the side, kept in a half crouch to try and ease my headache. A fist clenched my stomach, a warning sign. Move too fast and you'll throw up. I pushed back the duvet and hobbled to my little sweet bathroom, planning to gulp some water straight from the tap. Click. I switched the small light on and winced at the brightness over my head. The extractor fan hummed back to life. I kept my eyes squinted. I crept over to the mirror above the sink. Fuck! I look awful. My hair stuck up in every direction, and the skin on my face was ghost pale. My eyes were bloodshot. I was still wearing the same clothes I'd been in last night. The collar of my shirt was crusted with something yellow. What I took to be vomit. Some neon pink drink spilled down my front. I reached out and turned on the tap, stared at myself as I waited for the water to go cold. Tried to remember what had happened the previous night and how I'd gotten home. As I felt the water changing in temperature, I lowered my head, drank from the stream like an animal. I felt the cold liquid rush into my mouth, smoothing out the sandpaper of my tongue. When I finished splashing water in my face, turning the tap off and wiped my eyes as I straightened up, the blonde girl was standing behind me. She was directly behind me, my right shoulder, staring at me in the mirror. I screamed, slipped as I tried to spin around on the spot, my foot skidding in a wet patch on the tiles. I went down hard on my left side. Shock and fear burned my nerve endings. I scrambled on the floor, twisting myself on the back so I get a look at the spot where she was standing, but there was nobody there. I stared around the bathroom, pulling a deep breath, my heart pounding hard. She'd been there in the mirror. I'd seen her. This wasn't like one of my drunken memories that blended in a dream. She'd been in my bathroom. But now the bathroom was empty. I forced myself into a crouch and then in a standing position, crept slowly back into my dark bedroom. Nothing. Even after I'd switched the light on, banishing the shadows that lurked in the corners. There was nothing. My bedroom door was shut, and I knew I would have heard if anyone opened anything. There was nobody in my room. Nobody had been in my room. I must have imagined it. Only I hadn't imagined it. I knew I hadn't. Half an hour passed before I forced myself to climb back into bed to try and get some more sleep. I tucked my hand below my pillow. I felt a rustle of paper, a single crumpled sheet that had been stuffed beneath it. All this happened months ago. Months since the game of Never Have I Ever. And months since I saw the girl in my bathroom. Months since I found the note below my pillow. When I look back at the night, I always ask myself, what could I have done differently? Whether I could have changed the outcome. There are lots of things I think about, lots of specific moments and memories, and that note is one of them. As ridiculous as it was, as unbelievable as it was, I still wonder if I should have given it to the police, if I should have handed it over. But when I start thinking like that, the thought that always comes back is this. They wouldn't have taken it seriously. Who would have? Even I didn't take it seriously, not at first. I guess I thought it was a stupid joke when I found it, just something Jack had written for a prank. 7 little words scrawled on a torn off piece of paper, and light running through them, as if the whole sentence had been crossed out. Never have I ever met a succubus. Before I had the chance to give it a second thought, someone was banging on the front door of my house, heavy, urgent knocks. I studied the note in the pocket of my jeans and went to answer it, thinking it might be my friend. But it wasn't. It was 2 police officers. I didn't believe them when they told me Jenny was dead. I couldn't. I heard their words, but it didn't make any sense. They didn't seem real. The officers said Jenny had been found in the alleyway of the bar we'd been drinking at, lying behind a dumpster. An ambulance had been called, but she'd been pronounced dead at the scene. A heart attack, I found out later. They had some questions for me, and I guess I answered them. Questions about where we'd been, and how much we'd been drinking, about who'd been drinking with. I told them about the game and Jack. I told them about the blonde girl that joined us. They took some notes, told me they'd been in touch, and went on their way. It was only after they left that I remembered the piece of paper in my pocket. I'm sitting in the bedroom of my parents' house right now, staring out the window, and I can feel the crinkling of it in my jeans. Usually I keep the thing tucked away in my wallet when I'm out, so it's with me wherever I go. A reminder of what happened that night, a reminder of my friends, a reminder that no matter how many mysteries are uncovered in this world every day, and no matter how many crimes the police solve, there are just as many that they never do. Just as many questions that remain unanswered, like the question of Jack. They never found him in the end. They looked everywhere and they interviewed people, but nothing came up, just dead ends. A few people in the bar confirmed that they had seen him that night, but that was about it. The CCTV in the place hadn't been working. The owner said it had malfunctions earlier that day. They'd been waiting to get it fixed. There was one couple who claimed they'd seen him later on though. They said they spotted him a few streets away from the bar where we'd been drinking at about 2 a.m., walking in the direction of a large park near the city center, walking with the blonde girl. But no matter how hard the police looked, they could never track the girl down. Jack hasn't been seen ever since. I still Google his name now and again, though, just to check. As far as I know, the case is still active, and the police are still looking for him, so I keep checking in, just to see if any news come up, to see if there's been an update, but there never are. And I'm really, truly honest with myself. I don't think there ever will be. I mean, interesting story. For those who doesn't know, a succubus is a sex demon. So I guess the lesson of this story is don't talk to people unless you wanna get abducted by a sex demon. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.